The most powerful weapon in the world is not a nuke or a fighter jet, or even an aircraft carrier. It's the ability to control the flow of goods and people into and out of a country. And history shows us that blockading a nation can be the most effective way to bring it to its knees. When blockades are done correctly, they cut off the resources a nation needs to survive, forcing them to surrender. Let me explain. In 1982, Britain found itself at war with Argentina after Argentina invaded the Falkland Islands. But Britain was a technologically advanced nation with a strong military. So why did they choose to blockade Argentina? Well, because a war of attrition would have taken too long. So instead, Britain blockaded Argentina's coast, cutting off their imports and starving their economy. After weeks of being bombarded by the Royal Navy, Argentina surrendered. Blockades aren't just effective against smaller nations. During the American Civil War, the Union blockaded the Confederacy, cutting off their access to the goods and materials they needed to produce weapons and ammunition. Without the supplies they needed to fight, the Confederates surrendered after 4 years of fighting. Even superpowers like Russia and China have felt the effects of a blockade. When Russia invaded Ukraine in 2014, the US and EU blockaded Crimea, preventing Russia from getting their hands on the oil and gas that could have been extracted there. Then again, when China began building artificial islands in the South China Sea, the US blockaded those islands, preventing China from using them for military purposes. And let's not forget about the most famous blockade of all time. It's the one that ended World War II, when Germany declared war on the United States. The US blockaded German and Italian ports. This prevented Germany from receiving the supplies they needed to keep fighting, and ultimately led to their surrender. And although Japan had blockaded the United States before Pearl Harbor, they weren't successful because America's allies kept our ports open. So if blockades are so effective, why don't we use them more often? Well, it's because they're only effective if you control the seas. If you don't have a navy strong enough to enforce the blockade, then it won't work. Also, blockades can cause innocent people to suffer. For example, during the siege of Leningrad, the Germans blockaded the city, preventing food and supplies from getting in. And as a result, over 1 million civilians died. Finally, blockades can backfire. When the British blockaded the Barbary States in the early 1800s, they did it to stop piracy, but it ended up hurting the local economies and leading to instability in the region. But despite their drawbacks, blockades remain one of the most effective ways to bring a nation to its knees. For more insights on warfare, stay tuned.